All right, well, good morning. So good to see all of you here today. Good to have our folks who are watching online with us this morning. And it is great to be back from vacation. Becky and I took a couple of weeks, had a little time with the boys, went down to Mobile Bay, rented a house down there. If you've ever done that, that's amazing. And spent a little time down at Becky's family farm down in Ozark. And let me tell you something, it was South Alabama hot down there. Yeah, it was man, good stuff there. So anyway, but we had a great time away. Always grateful and appreciative to be able to just kind of power down. After a while, big thanks to Pat and Lee for preaching while I was gone. And, it's funny because I was the one who had the big idea of preaching through Revelation. And turns out they're doing a lot of the load. So that's great for them, though. See, challenging and good for them to preach on this book. So I'm grateful for it. And so also, this week is WinShape. And a week that we've been preparing for seems like a long time now because it takes a lot of preparation. Jill handed me a card with lots of really, really good information. So let me share that with you. We are now up to 451 campers for WinShape. $18,000 plus in scholarships which have been issued to bring other campers on board. You have prayer card, by the way, in your seat. So everybody can participate in WinShape, all right? All of us can participate at least by praying for the campers this week. Now, on these cards are specific names. That is either of a camper or a staff person. So you can pray specifically for somebody who will be at WinShape this week. And so I encourage you to do that as an individual. If you have children and children who will even be at WinShape, I would encourage you each night, maybe just around the dinner table, to pull out that card to pray for that person who is on that card. That would be a great way to continue to be involved in ministering to kids during this week. So I want to encourage you with that. We have these prayer bracelets, which are out there in the lobby. You can pick one up if you'd like on the way out as just a reminder for you to continue praying for them. You can also today, if you would like, the gates over at Lee Scott Academy, which is where we're going to be open, will be open. You can go out there. Some folks will be working and setting up and preparing. Jill said she would encourage anyone to go over there and just maybe drive a circle or two around the campus and pray for it as we prepare for what's going to happen this week and pray for our children and pray that God's presence would be known in their life. So just encourage you to do that as well. Because we have an army of children coming this week, and we're at a new place at Lee Scott, which, by the way, we are very happy to be partnering with them to do this. It's the perfect facility for this camp, and they're excited, and we're excited. We all see the value of this, so that's great. But we need lots of volunteers. We have lots who have signed up, but there is still room. If you have time this week and can commit even just an hour or two this week to come and help out, we would love to have you. Marcus Poppenfuss will be out in the lobby on the right in the serve corner right over here. If you want to serve, he can help you get plugged in, and we'd love to have you. Now, also, we have 32 staffers, and we have what's called a SWAT team. And you call in the SWAT team to come when you have a camp that's big enough to have a SWAT team, which is extra folks who come to help, and so we're so excited. So I want all of our staffers, we have part of the team who are here today. Would y'all just stand up? Y'all welcome them here to Cornerstone. And I want you to be praying for these folks this week because after having done this now for a few years and I've watched these folks, all college age, all of you here, I think they're all the staffers that work WinShape camps are college age. They work camps all over the country. They roll in here from maybe another camp that you've already worked, and then you're going to roll out of here and roll to another one in another town somewhere. What they do is incredible. The commitment that they make, the sacrifices that they make, the work that they put in, and it is unbelievable what they do. And so we are so happy when they come each year to do what they're going to do this week. We believe in you. We are proud of you. We are grateful to have you here. We know that God is going to use you and others to do amazing things in kids' life this week. And so thank you for being here. We will be praying for you. Good job. We're glad that you're in worship this morning. So we appreciate that so much. So anyway, you might want to give them a big hug of encouragement after the service today to kind of help them as they get ready for this week. So anyway, we're really excited about WinShape kicking off this week. Okay, now we're also in a series on Revelation. We just thought that we'd preach on Revelation for you guys today. Maybe that'd be a big, anyway. It's just the series that we're in. So anyways, good stuff. Revelation, when we decided to preach on that, seemed like a good idea, and then it became a very daunting idea as we started once again studying this book and looking at it. But I think that what we came to realize is that, Revelation it's not a code to be cracked. It's not a mystery to be solved. That's not why we have this book included in the Bible, but there's so many other things that are happening here. there is a lot of encouragement for people, and especially those who are struggling, because it was written to 7 churches that were in the midst of a struggling time as Christians. It's written to challenge the church, to really challenge the church up in terms of like not giving into the culture and really focusing on Christ. And it's also, there's a lot of hope in here. There's hope about what's going to happen. Like God doesn't hide the end from us. He doesn't hide the last chapter of the book. He tells us it's all good. I win in the end. So just stay with me. We're going to get to the end, and we're going to have victory together. So it's like, yay, thank you for telling us so that we don't have to wonder, what's going to happen. So this book is really important and vital to the whole 66 books of the Bible. It is important that we understand it. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, there's lots of symbolism and lots of craziness in the book that sometimes you sort of have to work through to pull out the meaning and try to figure out what in the world was John doing. Was he drinking like a Mountain Dew and then like eating pizza and then like Mexican and something happened and he had a revelation? No, this is just something that God provided a gift to him. Let's just look at it that way, of a revelation, something that not many people got. And so this is the revelation that he was given to show Christians in the church then and now and forever, that God is still on the throne. He is reigning and all is well. So that's kind of what this book is all about. Again, we will plow through some symbols and try to figure out what they mean. We're going to do that again this morning as we look at Revelation chapter 5. So if you have your Bibles or your iPhone, your iPad, or whatever you're reading the Bible on, pull that out. And we're going to work through just the first 5 verses of Revelation chapter 5 this morning to see, once again, what John is revealing to us. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read this. You can read along in your Bible. It's not on the screen. But then we're going to go back through it. We're going to look at it kind of one verse at a time and try to unpack its meaning. So just listen to this. It says, "Then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, 'Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll?' But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside it. I wept and wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or look inside. And then one of the elders said to me, 'Do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals.'" And so there's just a little snapshot of the one moment of the revelation that is happening here with John. And so what is happening is that in this vision, John is sort of looking up to heaven, and as if the clouds had parted and he could see what was going on here. He is seeing this throne that is up there, and what he's being given is sort of a heavenly perspective. Again, something very unusual that not many people certainly have gotten, but to be able to see the world, to see life, to see circumstances through God's eyes in a way is what John is being given here. And then he's given information as a part of this revelation that he is to pass along to others. And so that's what he's doing in these letters right now. And remember, John, who's writing this, also was a suffering servant, right? He was exiled to the island of Patmos. He suffered under the tyranny of Roman rule, just like all Christians. And so he understood the whole idea of also suffering in the midst of difficult times. And much of this letter is written as a result of that, and to churches who are also struggling in their day. But he's looking up. He sees the throne. There is someone who is on the throne who has a scroll in their hand. No big secret there. We already know that's God. God is the one sitting on the throne, and he holds a scroll in his hand. So that's kind of where we are. In verse 1, it says specifically, "Then I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne." Right hand is over here. That's my left. Right hand over here, "who sat on the throne, a scroll with writing on both sides, sealed with 7 seals." And this is really actually a very profound moment. The scrolls, by the way, back in that day, oftentimes people wrote on papyrus, and then they would roll it up if it was something that needed to be sent to somebody, just like we would drop something in an envelope, seal it, mail it, send it off. But in that day, they had a scroll, they would roll it up, and usually, especially if it was coming from one king to another king, for example, they would drop some wax on it, and they would put a seal in that wax, kind of like our graphic right there has that seal right there on that letter. And oftentimes, it was the signet from the ring of the king he would put in that wax. And that way, the person on the other end would know that this letter is actually from another king, because his seal, which nobody else has, is in this wax right here. And so I know that this is authentic, this is a real deal, and that it is very important, because letters that were sent this way and sealed up this way were very, very important and held critical information. And that on the other side, there was somebody who was supposed to receive that, and there was only one person who was supposed to receive that. We'll get into that in just a minute. But so God has this scroll in his hand, and what we do know is that in a sense, it holds all of the idea of history in this scroll. Not so much past and present, but future. And it's kind of comforting to know that the hands of the future, or that on this scroll, the future is in the hands of God and no one else. That he is the one who is on the throne, who is in control, and he is the one, and as it says, it's in his right hand. He is the one who is worthy, because that right hand represents authority and worthiness. He is the one who is worthy to hold all of history in his hand and to also know how things are going to play out. And so that's important. And so also the purpose, though, had more specific purposes to it. The scroll in there had writing in there that contained information about the plans and purposes of God as time goes forward, specifically when it relates to dealing with the issue of evil in the world. How is evil and injustice and sin and all of those things going to be dealt with in the future? And that's all contained in this scroll. And so it was very important what was happening in this particular pages of the scroll. And the double writing on the scroll had some specific meaning. It meant basically there was a lot of information and he couldn't get it on one side. So it was very spiritual. But it actually contains so much detailed information about how this is going to play out that it's comforting, again, to know that God has created a pathway and a plan, and he has it all worked out. And he's going to handle every detail of how it's supposed to take place. And so also just in that, and knowing that there's so much written in here, that he's got this under control, and that's important. Sealed specifically, it says, with 7 of those wax-type seals. 7 has lots of different meanings. One, it could just be that this was so important, had so much information, he needed a lot of seals to put on it to make sure that nobody except the one who was supposed to read this letter would read it. Also, 7 in the Bible is a perfect number that is often used when something is very important or valuable or holy or related to God. 7 could be related to the 7 churches that he's writing to. That's quite possible. 7 also could relate to prophecies that were revealed back in the book of Daniel in the Old Testament. Daniel and Revelation sometimes go hand in hand in terms of trying to understand things. So it's possible that it was related to that. I don't have the specific answer, and yet no one does, but that is symbolic of something very important. And it meant that this scroll and its contents were vital. Let's just put it that way. And so this scroll sealed up, very important. And there's only one, again, let me just reiterate this. There's only one person who could read this scroll. There was only one person who was authorized and who could actually break these seals. So let's go to verse 2. It says, "And I saw a mighty angel proclaiming in a loud voice, 'Who is worthy to break the seals and open the scroll?'" So John sees next to the throne a mighty angel who stands up. And at first he thought maybe he was going to proclaim something, because that's what most angels do, is they make a proclamation. But instead, he stands up and he blurts out a big question. Who is worthy to open the scroll and to break its seals? In other words, who has the sufficient authority? Who is somebody who is tested and proven, who is worthy and capable of not only opening this seal, but then executing what's in it? Because that's what was going to happen. Is not only just to look and reveal the information that's in it, but to actually execute what is in the scroll. Who is worthy, the angel is asking, and can do that? And so in that day, maybe they would have, if you were to answer that question, you would have looked around, you would have said, well, the one who has the most authority on earth right now is Rome. So maybe Rome is worthy. The officials of Rome are worthy to open this. What about Caesar? He was the most powerful man in the day. Maybe he was worthy. How about the politicians? No comment. Anyway, politicians. Maybe the politicians were worthy of opening the scroll. Was it philosophers of the day? They were the wisest of the day. Maybe they should open the scroll. I mean, and the list could have gone on and on of, who is worthy if you just open that question up. And even today we look around, who is worthy to do such important things that are related to everybody's future and to know what is happening in this world? Who is worthy of that? And so he asked this question, and John is sitting on the edge of his seat. Yeah, who is that? Because this is important. And then he goes on in verse 3. "But no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside it. Apparently the angel kind of went on a search. And maybe he went and visited Caesar. Maybe he went and visited politicians and philosophers and all sorts of people to find somebody who was worthy, and it says he could find none. Not even among created beings like angels and other people. He couldn't find anybody. Nobody was worthy. And John's response to that was, I wept and I wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or to look inside. And in that moment, John just becomes very sad and disheartened because the angel comes back from the search and says, look, I found nobody. And what that meant in John's mind was, well, then that means that no one is worthy of executing the plan to deal with evil and injustice and suffering in this world. That will either just be put off indefinitely, or is it possible that will never be dealt with? And to him, that was just not a good response. That was not something good that he wanted to hear. He was really hoping for a different answer than that. And really in so many ways, John understood that if God's purposes fail, that life is meaningless. And that really without God or without Christ, there is no hope in this life. And that's really true, isn't it? I mean, if all of the struggles and temptations and issues of life that we have to face and the hurdles that we have to jump, if it's just kind of up to us to muster it up, and get enough, happy going on and try to plow through this or take enough medication or drink enough or find enough, coaches to help me through life. If that's what it takes, then there's no end to that. And there's no hope in that. Because there's always one more struggle to conquer. There's always one more thing. And at the end of that, what has life meant anyway if it's just a series of struggles I'm conquering somehow? But with Christ, it's very different. We have hope. We have a way to do that. And so then in verse 5, good thing is we're not left at verse 4. He says this, it says this, then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. And so all of a sudden, finally, it says one of the 24 is who we're talking about from chapter 4. One of the 24 actually stood up, and the elders represented probably church leaders who had already died and gone to heaven. And so these were former church leaders, people who were important in the movement of the church who were there. One of those elders stepped forward who had an answer for the question. And he says, look, hang in there, John. Don't worry. There actually is somebody who's going to take care of this. And he describes him like this. He is the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And we remember that it was in the Old Testament from the tribe of Judah would come the Messiah, right? And the Lion of the tribe of Judah was the coming Messiah. And it talks about the root of David. And we know the Messiah would come from the lineage of David. That's what that talks about. And so he's describing him in this very important way. And he's saying, look, the one who can do this, the one who can open the seals, the one who can make this happen is the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David. And to John, he would have known exactly who that was. This was God's ultimate anointed one. The one who alone possessed the ability, the capability to do what needed to be done to execute the judgments that would take place in the world, to interpret the scroll, to open it up, to make it happen. And we know that that is Jesus Christ. And so this part of the book of Revelation, this is a critical moment, and this was a hard moment for John. This was a moment where John had to understand something that was vital and important to the whole world, that there was only one who can actually take care of the state of the world. And all of the hope lies in his hands. And the only future is the only future worth living or worth having is the one where God reigns. And so now you sort of bring that in to our lives. Like, okay, so let's take this out of all of that and kind of break it down to, okay, so I take that and I look around my own world and I think, what does that mean for us? And good grief, you can look around our world today, and times haven't changed a whole lot in terms of the struggle. And you look around the earth and you see the struggle and you see the injustice, the pain, the things that happen to innocent people, just the way that evil takes its root here in so many different ways. And we go, who's going to deal with all that? How does that get dealt with ultimately? maybe we bring it down into just our own lives and we look at who's going to deal with the uncertainty in my life. I mean, who's going to help me with my struggle, you know? And we might even be foolish enough to think, I can handle that. I am worthy. So we try to do things, right? We think, well, maybe if I just move to a new city, you know, I'll leave all my problems behind, and, you know, then I'll go to this new city and I won't have those problems anymore, and do that. And then you get there and you unpack, and you accidentally unpack all your problems from the previous city. You know, it's like, oh man, they followed me. Or it's just as hard here as it was there. We think, you know, maybe if I could do it, maybe a new job would help my life be so much better. Maybe that's the thing that's going to make it happen. Maybe more money, maybe more different relationship, maybe this, maybe that. And we start trying to fix our life, right? Because we think, well, surely I am worthy to handle my own life. I can take care of that. How's that go? Not as well oftentimes. And so I guess that then our question comes right back to the question of the angel. Who is worthy? All right? I mean, isn't that the question of the day? And isn't that the question of our life? And really the question of all time? I mean, ultimately, who is worthy on this earth or in the earth or in all of the heavenly realm to handle all of life and what is to come and even our own lives individually? It's somebody who is deemed worthy of doing that. And I was reading this past week a little excerpt from a book by a guy named A.W. Tozer. He's one of these theologians. It's hard to read. But anyway, he's got this book called The Knowledge of the Holy. And in there he says this. He said, the heaviest obligation lying upon the Christian church today is to purify and elevate her concept of God until it is once more worthy of him and of her being the church. In all her prayers and labor, this should have first place. We do the greatest service to the next generation of Christians by passing on to them, undimmed and undiminished, that noble concept of God which we received from our Hebrew and Christian fathers of generations past. This will prove of greater value to them than anything that art or science or anything else can devise. Man, I really appreciated that, because we look to a lot of things in this life to make life meaningful and worthy. There's only one thing. And the best we can do to make it very clear how this life needs to play out is elevate God. Is to make him even bigger in this life, to be so something that we cannot possibly even work around, that he is the first thing that we see when we wake up. He is the last thing that we see when we go to bed. That he is the first thing that we think about when we have those struggles in life, not the last thought after we've already had them and worked it out ourselves. That we elevate him to a place that we realize his holiness, his wisdom, his power, his ability to handle our issues, his ability to provide for us are so much greater than ours or anybody else's on this earth. Like, elevating him is a game changer in our life and in this world. And the greatest thing we can do as individuals and as a church is elevate him high, like we do here every Sunday morning when we worship him. And we put him in that highest place, and we give him all authority. And so then we come back, and like the angel, we ask the questions. Who is worthy to handle my future, worthy to handle my pain, forgive my past, handle the things of this world I can't do anything about? Isn't that the worst? Things I can't control. Who is worthy to ignite and empower the church to go and change the world? Who is worthy to change the lives of 400 plus children this week at WindShape and to give them a revelation of who God is? You know, who is worthy to do all of these things? And then I go down to verses 9 and 10 in Revelation 5, and it says, and they sang a new song, saying, you are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. You have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth. And so here you go. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, Jesus Christ. Amen? If you're looking for somebody worthy to do all that needs to be done in your life and in this world, there you go. He can cause the darkness to flee. He can put Satan in his place. He can help you step into an unknown future with peace and confidence. He can replace your fear with peace. He can take a heart of stone and turn it into a heart of flesh. He is worthy. He is the only one who is worthy. And he is the only one who is worthy of breaking open the seal of your life and giving you everything you need to do everything that he's called you to do. Last week I was sitting on that bay down in Mobile, and Becky and I were out on the pier, and we'd been going out every night to quickly grab the sunset before it disappears, you know, and if you've ever watched, sunsets at the beach are amazing. They're also amazing on the bay in kind of a different way. So we rushed out there, and we were sitting there, and it was all quiet, and that sun, you know, it starts going really fast, so you got to get there quick, and so we were sitting there, and it was just getting above the horizon. Clouds were kind of above it, all purple and orange and beautiful, and sun's like all just lighting up the water underneath the docks, you know, and you can just sort of see it all happening through the docks. The pelicans are flying around and seagulls. There's a moment. And I'm just like, God, you are amazing. I mean, you know, you love beauty. You are capable of producing that. I am capable of nothing, you know. In light of this, who am I? I mean, you are capable of this creation, of this world, of those birds, you know, of handling Becky and I in our life and our kids, you know, that we worry so much about all the time and worried about this, that, and the other. You are capable of handling our life. You're capable of handling this church and its future. You're capable of handling everything. Why would I ever doubt you? Like Jesus said in Matthew 6, if he can take care of the birds of the air, if he can take care of seagulls and pelicans and make sure they're fed and they're not worried about where their next meal is coming from, they're good to go. If he can take care of them, he's going to take care of you too. You know that? Because he loves you so much more. And you know, your worth in this life doesn't come from this life or anybody here. It comes from God, who is worthy. It comes from him only. So as we just sort of contemplate that and take that in, you know, we're sort of left with the question that we like to ask. You know, what is God saying? What am I going to do about it? And I'm going to put that up there in just a minute. But I want to read one last verse. It's actually the same verse that Dustin read earlier. And I want you to close your eyes. And I just want you to hear these words. Maybe this is just us praying this to God. Jesus, you are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power. For you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being.